Neuroplasticity, by definition, is the ability for our entire system. People often say it's the ability for the brain to rewire, but it's not just the brain, it's the entire nervous system. And there are many nervous systems in your body. It's the ability for muscle tissue to regenerate, bones to heal, linings of the gut to regenerate. And it also means that when we've gone through stress, traumatic event where our system, so I'm going to show you my hand here, is going through a nice ebb and flow, okay? Hopefully you can see that. And then a trauma comes in and disrupts that ebb and flow, and the system kind of goes into like a bit of a chaos. Maybe it shuts down, or maybe it goes into like a hyper, or it shuts down, or it goes into a hypervigilance mode where everything, there's a fear of everything. So it throws this nice ebb and flow off. When that occurs, the nervous system goes into chaos. It goes into dysregulation. That's the term, dysregulation. So part of neuroplastic healing, part of neuroplasticity, is reteaching the entire system, the neurochemistry, the neurophysiology, all of it, the endocrine system, how to come back to baseline and back to that ebb and flow. So yes, it teaches neuroplasticity, and it isn't just about calming the nervous system. And this is something that is kind of misrepresented in the brain science, in the rewiring world, as people are saying, oh, it's just about calming the system. Here's the thing. Sometimes we need to calm the system. We need to take it out of a hyperarousal and bring it back down to baseline. Sometimes the system is in that loop of high arousal. We call it anxiety. I don't like that term because it's really a high arousal, a hyperarousal of the nervous system and the sensations in the body. Sometimes we need to actually keep a system going up the ladder of what we would call fight-flee energy so that it can finally hit a threshold high up, kind of like a thermostat, so that it then can come back down and reset. And a lot of what's happening right now in the mind-body community, in the health and healing community, is that, and I was guilty of this before I understood this, I was quite in the hypocrite stage because I didn't understand this in my 20s. And I would teach people to breathe and take a breath and relax. But I didn't understand the science. I didn't understand nervous system physiology, which is when we've had a trauma come in and it has disrupted that flow and we're in this shaky waters. Sometimes we need to let those shaky waters float to the beach and then absorb into the sand, if I use that analogy. We can't just stop those shaky waters by trying to calm the system. If you think about that water analogy I just gave you with the beach, if you were to try to contain a tsunami or a big, big wave, right, with, let's say, a concrete wall, and try to calm it back down, it's not going to calm back down. It's going to keep that kinetic energy, that force inside of it, inside of the water, and it's going to go somewhere else. Right? If you really imagine that, if there's these big waves wanting to crash and reset at the beach on the shore, and we try to stop it, it's going to go somewhere else. We want to teach the body, the brain, really the nervous system. It's the nervous system more so, not the brain. We want to teach it how to be with these big waves that aren't just nice and flowy, so that we can surf them, literally surf them, like if you were on the ocean in a big wave, to the shore. And what happens is that so many people are taught these management strategies to keep the waves from coming into shore. And then those waves, they literally, from a neurophysiological point of view, they go somewhere else into the body, and then that's what creates chronic illness. Right? I'm going to really pause on that part. When we don't allow the system to find its natural set point and discharge. We would call it also deactivation, coming out of that high stress response. If we don't allow it to come back to shore naturally, it's going to create chaos and havoc somewhere else in the system. This is where genetics comes in. Some people, all of us, have a predisposition for something. It's just the way human DNA works. Some people have hardier systems. No matter what stress gets thrown at them, they just seem to be able to persevere and keep going. Other people aren't as robust. They're more fragile. This then could take us into the branch of talking about early childhood adversity and how early childhood adversity, abuse, trauma, medical procedures, birth trauma, in utero trauma, transgenerational trauma, fevers when you're a baby, being hospitalized, having an infection, having a near-death experience like choking, fainting and hitting your head. There are so many things that create our nervous system to go a little shaky when we're really little, when really during that time we need to be building strong foundations. Let's come back to foundations now, full circle. So what we see is some people just have more robustness, that's a word, as adults. Typically, when we go back in time and look at the history, those who are more robust in a healthy way, who aren't coping and managing and pretending to be okay, because I see a lot of this too, those who are really more resilient, they usually had a much stronger first 3 years of their life. They also had parents that had strong, healthy, secure nervous systems. The trouble right now in our culture, especially in North America and Australia and in the UK, kind of Europe areas, and Asia, there's been so much transgenerational trauma and abuse to our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, whether it was being abused as children, the way we were schooled, poverty, etc., war, that we're having to stop right now in our current generation, which is so cool. The young people are finally really understanding the importance of this. Not all young people, but a lot of them, that we need to break these cycles and rewire our nervous systems now, especially if we have little kids, if we have grandchildren, if we're about to have children, so that we don't pass this on. And everyone is different. And so when there is a ailment in a person's system, and it's really clear that the general recommendations, nutrition, exercise, setting up, a safe space in your home, homeopathy, naturopathic medicine, psychotherapy, mind-body meditation, if all these things are still not getting to the root, then chances are there's an underlying tsunami, or the ocean's just frozen. There's two sides to the nervous system, or a spectrum really, where a person can be really shut down or really on hyperarousal, and then there's this spectrum. Because some people will be shut down in certain situations but hyperaroused in others. So this is why there isn't this one size fits all kind of thing.